Hello, MMA fans. This is the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Mixed martial arts, UFC 242, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Dustin Poirier, alternative commentary. I am your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me, splitting his time between covering this fight with me and writing down his coverage for 401mania.com, the host of the 401 Ground and Pound radio show, and Damn You Hollywood, Mr. Robert Winfree. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Had to wake up much earlier than I wanted to because I prefer to sleep in. I am not a big fan of waking up prior to about 10 or so in the morning.
Yeah, you know what this jerk did because he woke up on the wrong side of the bed to do his job? I send him fun comments about the Wu-Tang Clan.
There is nothing fun about the Wu-Tang Clan.
And he, like a big jerk face, writes nasty comments back to me on Facebook. Sir, do I need to bring you a cup of coffee in the morning and maybe some donuts?
I don't drink coffee. I'm LDS.
Of course you don't. You
and I have known each other for long enough. You should know my religious quirks by now. No, look, it's just I saw those comments at around 8:30 to 9 in the morning here, and I do not acknowledge fun as a concept before noon.
Well, you're a jerk face. How about that?
I'm happy to acquiesce to that.
All right, so our main event tonight is Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is the lightweight champion, versus Dustin Poirier, who is the interim lightweight champion. How did we get here with two belt holders, in 50 words or less?
In 50 words or less, Conor McGregor is a giant jackass who screws up everything he touches from a procedural standpoint. Look, Conor McGregor came back from his boxing affair with Floyd Mayweather, immediately jumped the line to fight Khabib because money. Khabib wins handily. That was not an especially competitive fight. Khabib then, while never giving in to his emotions about the mountains of horrible things that McGregor said about himself, his father, his culture, his religion, etc., 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 did after the cage when he proceeded to jump over the fence and then dive at Conor McGregor cornerman and the human equivalent of a used tissue, Dylan Dennis.
Yes, he did what we call in wrestling a tope off the cage.
He went to Pearl Harbor them.
Mm-hmm.
The result of that melee was Khabib being suspended for 9 months. They actually offered him a lesser suspension if he did an anti-bullying PSA, and he told him to shove it. Which, you know what? I fully appreciate that, Khabib. Just for the record, if the Nevada State Athletic Commission, who just wants to try and virtue signal by saying, please, record these pointless PSAs for us and we'll reduce your suspension, he basically gave them the finger. He's back here, but during the interim, the UFC wanted to keep the title at least potentially occupied should something else happen, should Khabib get injured again, because he's been injured in the past, that's the thing. They gave featherweight champion Max Holloway a shot at the interim title against Dustin Poirier. In the second best fight of the year from where I sit, Poirier defeated him via unanimous decision. That fight only bested by the fight that came immediately before it, an absolute barn burner between Kelvin Gastelum and Israel Adesanya. Poirier is the interim champion. Khabib's suspension is up a little bit earlier. I mean, it's weird. His suspension should technically be up. Sorry, there was some weird math associated with how his suspension got handled, but he is now free to fight. The UFC wanted to come to Abu Dhabi, and they brought an exceptionally great lightweight title fight to be that. Khabib, the undefeated UFC champion, 27-0. An absurd record at all, much less at lightweight. Poirier, since returning to lightweight, has only lost once. There's also one no contest with Eddie Alvarez in there. He's on his last five fights. I believe he has finished 4 of them, or it's his last 6 and he's finished 5. The only one to go the distance with him recently was, in fact, Max Holloway. And that brings us to our battle tonight to kind of unify Yeah, he finished Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, and Eddie Alvarez, and then went the distance with Max Holloway. So he finished 3 of his last 4. But that's a heck of a group to finish in consecutive fashion. But that is what brings us to this evening. We have an undefeated champion in Nurmagomedov and one of the most dominant forces in the sport right now against an absolutely surging workhorse in Dustin Poirier, and they're going to fight it out unless something crazy happens over the next couple of hours, which is not at all impossible.
In your co-main event, you have spin kick extraordinaire expert Edson Barboza versus Paul Felder. Yet another lightweight contest. We have in yet another lightweight contest.
Hold on, look, let me save you the trouble. Everything on this card is lightweights except for one heavyweight fight because the MMA gods hate me. That's the only reason I can think of why Blades and Abdurakhimov is on the main card.
Because God loves the Wu-Tang Clan.
No, he doesn't. Or only in as much as he loves everyone.
Islam Makhachev versus Davi Ramos. Curtis Blades. Ramos. Curtis Blades.
Ramos, she's Brazilian. George Ryder, don't do it.
George Costanza. And Curtis Blades versus Shamil Abdurakhimov.
Nope.
No? Damn it.
Nope. Abdurakhimov.
Abdurakhimov. Okay. Well, that sounds better.
Just go with his first name. I'll understand.
Okay. Shamazel. Marabak Taisimov versus Carlos Diego Ferreira.
Fahea, he's Brazilian.
Ugh.
Hey, welcome to my world. All right, I have to balance all of this crap. I have to look at someone's name and go, okay, there's 4 different ways I could pronounce this. Where are they from in the world?
I'll have 4 chicken vaginas. All right.
Yeah, you're that guy.
Oh, I'm totally that guy. All right, so our first contest here on the main card is Taisimov versus Fahida.
Say it with me. Fa.
Yeah. Fa.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
Fahea.
There you go.
Taisimov versus Fahea. Spell
there
it
we
out.
go. I did it.
Woo!
For the record, why Mark is struggling with this, his last name is spelled Ferreira, but he is Brazilian, and in Brazil, most R's, in Portuguese, most R's are pronounced like H's.
Yes, in Portuguese and 5-year-old with speech impediments.
Look, we don't talk. My mother understands. She's a speech language pathologist.
My son, 4% in his age group. That's how much mouth he is.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Anyway,
he's gonna have some fun times ahead of him.
Yeah, it's all right. He's also in kindergarten. We'll get through this.
Look, by the time you get to first grade is when you have to really be concerned. But
my daughter did 3 years of speech therapy. She's fine now. Moving on.
It's not at all the end of the world.
Nobody cares. Moving on. So let's break down our opening contest here on the main card, and during the breaks we can kind of go over some of the previous. We had a bit of a late start this morning. I've been dealing with some stuff, so we can go over some of the prelim stuff that happened earlier on FX and Fight Pass. But Taisimov versus Fahea, go.
This is a Marabak Taisimov. I suppose I have to kind of tell about him. He's been an under-the-radar guy for a lot of years in the UFC. Because, he's Chechen by what he's like ethnically Chechen. He fights out of Vienna, I believe he's Russian Austrian is kind of his technical heritage, but there's some Chechen ethnicity in there, and given his mixed nationality and the politics of sport within Russia, the Russian Federation, which includes Russia, Chechnya, Dagestan, and a couple of other smaller countries, kind of like how the United Kingdom comprises 4 other countries actually. It's England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. He's not been able to really fight in the United States. He's not been able to get a visa to compete in the States. So he's been fighting everywhere but. His UFC record is stellar. He's 7-1. Yeah, he's 7-1. That one loss to a guy who now fights at welterweight and is just a cement brick of a human being. He's on a 6-fight winning streak and has finished 5 of those. Now, this is somewhat mitigated by the fact that he's been fighting a lower level of opposition. Took a step up when he fought Des Green, missed weight, won the fight but did not look nearly as good as he had in the past. Gets another step up on a big card here, and has a chance to really perform. Carlos Diego Ferreira is a very talented guy, a former world champion in jiu-jitsu, has a really good UFC record as well. So is he? I think he's a world champion in jiu-jitsu. I know he's in a lot of competitive stuff there. On a 4-fight winning streak, 2 of them finishes, has demonstrated some heavy hands. Again, a really, really solid grappling game overall. Coming off a win over Rustam Khabilov, that was one of his bigger wins thus far on his current run. His big kind of setback came in back-to-back losses when he fought Beneil Dariush and Dustin Poirier. He's been plagued by inactivity as well. Did not fight at all in 2017. Had a layoff from January 30th of 16 to February 18th of 2018. But seems to kind of be back on the road to actually fighting on a regular basis. So this is a pretty solid fight in that respect. Taisimov is your betting favorite, I believe, minus 280. Taisimov he does kind of a GSP light style of fighting. Very, very technical on the feet, very technical on the ground, good wrestling, just a really solid all-around guy, but he's not fought a high enough level of opposition, again, just because of some of his visa issues and the fact that lightweight is just a shark tank of a division.
Okay. How do you see this fight going? Are you favoring Taisimov or Ferreira?
I slightly favor Taisimov. Ferreira has more documented power in his hands against, again, a better level of opposition. Taisimov's knocked out plenty of guys, but he's also knocked out plenty of guys who aren't really in the UFC anymore. And that's an important distinction. Taisimov's more technical. Ferreira has more power. Taisimov's a bit more dynamic. Ferreira...
Well, the power doesn't do you a tremendous amount of good unless you have the dynamic precision work behind you and technique. You got to actually hit the guy for the power to matter.
Welcome to MMA. I don't say that unkindly. This is my favorite sport to the extent that you can argue it as a sport on a philosophical level, I suppose. But there's a lot of technical stuff that gets by in practice that does not get by on paper. And such is the nature of all combat sports. There's plenty of guys that do great stuff technically but run into aberrations when throwing them into practice. You don't need perfect technique. And moreover, MMA technique in a lot of ways differs from the individual components that make up the sport. There's a lot of stuff that would never work in boxing that works in MMA. Not because boxers or MMA fighters are terrible punchers, but because there's fundamental considerations that have to be made to different dynamics of the sport. And as a result, there's some stuff that works that looks ugly. There's some stuff that looks beautiful that doesn't quite work all the time. There's a lot of variance. And again, when I say Ferreira is not as technically sound as Taisimov, that's not to say he's a wild, drunken brawler. He is not the lightweight coming of Tank Abbott, so to speak. The man knows what he's doing. But if you were to put them technique for technique, I believe Taisimov is the superior technician.
Okay, I think we are just about ready to get started here. You don't have to get into specifics since we're going to start calling the action in just a few seconds, but how has this card been so far? I know in the televised FX prelims, I think in the first fight, the guy got hit so hard he face planted and his leg was shaking. It looked pretty ugly.
Yeah, that was a nasty one. It's been all right so far. Nothing really. Again, we've had some good finishes. The knockout in question you're referencing is Otman Izatar knocking out Timu Pakal, and yeah, the guy did a flare flop. Basically, he fell like a tree being felled. It's been a bit hit and miss. There's been some good stuff, but there's been some decisions. I mean, I didn't agree with the Calderwood and Lee decision necessarily, but there was only one scorecard I took issue with. The nature of the fight lent itself towards a split decision. There's been a lot of fighters really feeling the reality of the cage. For the record, this event takes place in Abu Dhabi. It is very hot.
Yes, I believe one of the female fighters in the FX prelim main event was bleeped because she was mentioning how bloody hot it was.
Yeah, it's really hot especially when you get down into the cage, because there's a bunch of lights that are lighting everything up that add to the heat factor. There's the humidity. There's a lot of fighters that have been feeling that once you get about a round into the fight. Just suddenly, oh man, I've sweat twice as much as I normally would. Suddenly my conditioning goes out the window.
No, it's an indoor event. Do they just not have good air conditioning in this building?
Yeah. Anytime you get a building this large, air conditioning it to an effective degree becomes a bit of an issue. I'm sure it's nicer inside than out, but you're dealing with a lot of people in an enclosed space in a very hot environment naturally. There's really only so much you can do unless you're going to dump an air condition. So you're going to put air conditioned units above the cage and blow them onto the octagon.
All right, we are underway here. Taisimov has opted to circle on the outside. Ferreira has taken the center, and he's the one starting to push things. Taisimov content to counter. That's where we are right now. He just landed a leg kick, but he caught some punches coming in. Ferreira's doing it. Ferreira, I'm going to do this all fight. Ferreira is doing a very good job of sticking his jab out there so far.
Yeah, both men kind of flashing the jab. Taisimov is more comfortable in kind of the counterpuncher role, so expect him to try to bait Ferreira into overcommitting so he can counter him. And Ferreira will oblige. He knows he has power and is happy to kind of try to, land punches.
Mm-hmm. He threw a front kick out there, I suspect, again, trying to draw Ferreira in so that post-action he could counter. Ferreira is just stalking Taisimov. Now, I don't know how effective he's being, but he keeps he's
but he is
putting
pressing
pressure
forward
on him. Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of some of the best elements of Taisimov's game. He's letting Ferreira come forward, but Ferreira's not finding a tremendous amount of success, and Taisimov is landing his counters.
Yes, he just landed a combination there that ended with a left hook. Leg kick, took his legs out from under him, but he recovered. He being Ferreira.
It was a pretty good uppercut from Taisimov a second or two ago there.
I like Taisimov's footwork. He's doing a very good job of not just circling endlessly, but kind of going from side to side. He's shifting his weight. He's using a lot of evasive technique.
Yeah, and his defense is sound thus far. He's not really been hit clean by anything that Ferreira's offered, and Ferreira is offering a lot.
Be curious to think what the judges see, because one guy is clearly pushing, the other guy is clearly defending, but the guy defending is actually landing. So I'm curious to see how the judges score this so far, unless something interesting happens, and it has. Taisimov actually just scored with a strike. Ferreira went down to one knee, but he recovered. Taisimov kept pursuing, and eventually Ferreira was able to back him off, and now they're toe-to-toe again.
Ferreira is not doing anything to really get Taisimov out of his game yet, which is kind of the problem that Ferreira is going to run into as this continues if he keeps fighting this way. He's banking on landing the big shot, and Taisimov is thus far adept at making him miss and then countering very well.
All right. There was a roundhouse there from Taisimov that was nowhere near Ferreira. He's definitely using his kicks to bait Ferreira. I don't think he's throwing them for any massive effect or damage.
No, he's happy to score with them and to do the damage that they're going to do, but even when you watch the technique, he's not really overcommitting his weight on most of them. He's throwing them, but there's a difference between, throwing a kick and throwing a kick.
Right.
So to speak. And he's throwing to feel, he's throwing to annoy, he's throwing to score, he's throwing to range find. He's not really turning over his hips all the time. He's not overcommitting his weight to the endeavor, and that's also stopping Ferreira from finding an opening that he's really comfortable with trying to capitalize on.
Where Taisimov has been successful in this round is when Ferreira does respond to a first strike from Taisimov. Taisimov catches him every time. Not enough to where he's been able to win to end the round and the fight, but enough to where if the question says who would I rather have been in this round, I'd rather be Taisimov.
Taisimov's straight right is really coming online at this point. He's landed that flush a couple of times. He's not really got his feet under him the way you'd kind of like to and deliver fight-ending power. And some of his timing has been to land it while Fahea is leaning away from it, thus mitigating some of the force. But he is finding it much with a degree of consistency that should trouble Fahea.
And that's the end of the round. If Rampage Jackson were here, I don't think he would have liked that round.
Look, if let's just not.
God damn it, stand in front of me and fight.
I do not care for the philosophies of Rampage Jackson.
Yes, the book according to Rampage. I would score that round 10-9 for Taisimov.
I agree. Fahea, again, had a few moments towards the end of the round, but nothing that would anywhere come close to mitigating the work that Taisimov did through the previous 5 minutes.
So, if you're Fahea, what are you saying to him in the corner?
Oh, let me think about that for just a second. What would I do if I were trying to... I think you need to crowd more before you start punching. You need to be a little bit more diligent about your footwork, because Taisimov's doing a good job, even like you mentioned, moving side to side rather than simply circling the same direction each time. You need to cut him off. You need to crowd him a little bit, and I think you need to try mixing things up. And maybe you just didn't want to overcommit to takedowns in the first round, but you got to at least get him thinking about those. It's amazing in MMA what happens as soon as a fight that is contested largely in a singular dimension, even the threat of it going in a different direction, how it opens things up. Even if you don't get a takedown, shoot a couple to get him thinking about it, to mix up your game, to get him reacting differently. Because if all you're doing is what you've done thus far, he has a read on you, and the fight's not going your way.
All right, so we begin our second round here, and they've been going back and forth. I mean, it isn't necessarily a roadhouse, but they've been doing some pretty even exchanges. Taisimov, again, on the defensive. Fahea actually scored with a strike. Taisimov shook him off. They grappled against the cage, and Taisimov just took Fahea down with a trip and throw. But Fahea bounced back up and now is fighting for position with Taisimov against the cage. Now they've just been broken up, I think, because of a headbutt.
Could be. Fahea's been finding his right more thus far.
I mean, they're going to show it to you here. Yeah, he was hitting him with the back of his head. He had his head kind of buried in...
that's deeply illegal.
He had his head buried kind of deep in Taisimov's pecs there, and then he just thrust it upward. So he was admonished by the referee. We're back. Fahea's actually starting to score now. He's hit some dead on. Taisimov's got a pretty good chin. He's walking him off, but those look like they sting. My son just delivered a spinning heel kick to the snack table. The snack table brushed it off.
Fahea's general answer to the problems of the first round seems to have been, I'm just going to be more active, which, to his credit, does seem to be working thus far.
You know, volume can overwhelm your opponent.
Especially if they're not used to going backward a tremendous amount. And again, we mentioned it before the fight, fatigue is going to be more of a factor in this event than in others just because of the environmental conditions. If I'm Taisimov, he's also been kind of looking for an uppercut, which is a good read on Fahea, but he's oversold it a little bit. He's also demonstrated, in my mind, a bit too much aversion to fighting in the pocket. If you want to get someone to stop pressuring you like this, a really good way to do it is to just hit them really, really hard. Just plant your feet, stand your ground, and get them to back off. That's a good combination from Taisimov there. Yeah, Fahea at this point seems unconcerned with the power of Taisimov, and that does seem to be giving him a little bit more freedom to just march forward. Whereas in the first round, he got tagged a few times, and that seemed to put him off on occasion. This round, not at all. He's just the Terminator coming forward.
Yeah. I mean, both of these guys seems to have a pretty good chin. They both have absorbed a fair amount of pretty hard strikes, and we haven't seen them go flying all over the cage a la Pat Barry, Czech Congo style. All right, Fahea tries for a takedown. Taisimov will have none of it.
I'm surprised Taisimov hasn't looked for it. Again, just at this point, he's the one who kind of needs to mix things up again. A well-timed double leg is another way to get someone hesitant about relentless forward pressure. Now, Fahea might be just confident enough in his grappling to not care, but that's also a bit risky because you can lose rounds that way.
As we've discussed in previous commentaries, even if you are a brilliant practitioner of jiu-jitsu from the guard position, the judges seem to just say, well, you're on your back.
Well, it's also harder to be genuinely dangerous from guard in MMA when you can get hit in the face as consistently as you do.
So, this round I'm leaning towards Fahea.
Agreed. Unless something crazy happens over the last couple of seconds.
And we are down to the final 10. And yeah, Taisimov's absorbed more punishment this round than he did in the last round and was not nearly as effective. And we're done with the second round. One apiece. Taisimov, Fahea.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to the third round, and it's an old cliche, but it takes more energy to move backwards than to move forwards, and Taisimov is definitely fading a bit. Now, he might get his second win. Fahea might have kind of punched himself out a bit in that second round because he did a lot of work, but Taisimov is now the one in need of a paradigm shift.
If you're in Taisimov's corner, what are you telling him to do right now? Because he cannot coast to victory.
I think you mix in the double leg. He's got a good double leg. Again, Fahea was able to kind of stop him the one time he did because he did it from an awkward position. Fahea's also cut a little bit under his left eye. I think you also might need to just go to elbows. Like, you're trying to get this guy off of you, and again, there's a couple of different ways. One is give them something else to think about. One is punch them really, really hard. The other is put something hard and bony in between their line of attack. A knee, an elbow, something along those lines that they don't really want to run into because it's no fun.
Sure. I'm hearing. He's coming in close. Wow, Ferreira is on fire. George is on fire this round. He came forward with fire and backed Taisimov right into the cage.
And he found a strategy in that second round. It's now on Taisimov to do something different and make him change. Because Fahea can do what he did in the previous round and win. Same is not true of Taisimov, who needs to find another answer.
This is where your fight intelligence quotient really comes into play. You need to be able to think on your feet and be a dynamic thinker as well as a good physical specimen, because you have to try things on the fly. Speaking of elbows, Fahea shot in, denied, but while he was in close, delivered a few elbows there to Taisimov that got Taisimov backing off of him.
You can use them. You should. It's really that simple. Elbows are horribly underutilized.
I can't remember what fight it was. It was one of the foreign cards on like Fox Sports or UFC Plus. But a guy ran across the ring, elbowed the other guy in the face, and we were done. That's brilliant.
That's been a while since that happened.
Yes, it has. Been watching UFC a long time.
You and me both.
A leg kick from Fahea. He backs Taisimov against the fence. Yeah, Fahea is really slowing down. He's dropping his hands. He's not quite circling as fast as he was earlier in the fight.
Yeah, both guys are feeling it at this point, but Taisimov is feeling it more. And this is one of the things you can run into when you do a lot of backing up and countering. It can be very effective, but if you can't switch gears, you're going to run out of gas first unless you really stop the guy.
He's getting hit pretty much at Fajea's will. Fajea's not throwing a lot of combinations, though. He's just throwing single punches. So they're scoring. He's winning the round, but the guy's just walking through him, and he looked like he just got kicked in the back of the head. Taisumov did. Yeah, Taisumov is just circling and getting hit at this point. I mean, he's able to intelligently defend himself, so you can't stop the fight, but he seems kind of dead on his feet.
Yeah, he's in zombie mode.
Yeah.
And that's never a good place to be.
And we've got a full 2 minutes plus left here. It's not like he can just, I just need to kind of sit here and cover up and it'll be over. Fajea's got 2 minutes to work, and I think Fajea wants to end this fight.
He should. He wants to make a bit. If you want to make a statement, stop the guy. Don't just beat him.
Not only that, but I mean, there's more money in it for you if you knock a guy out.
If you get a post-fight bonus, otherwise it's just show and win.
No, I understand that, but that's my point. The only way you're going to get best knockout of the night is to knock a fucker out.
He's probably not going to get it after some of the other. After that other one, that was, oh boy.
You never know. Maybe he hits Taisumov like Popeye, and Taisumov goes flying into the stratosphere.
Yeah, Taisumov's done at this point. Again, there's a lot of these fighters that we're going to see tonight that are just going to be badly affected by the environmental conditions. Not to say that that's the only reason Taisumov is losing. It's not. But it is a factor that should be considered, especially going forward, because there's a lot of fighters tonight that are going to be feeling that.
Psychologically speaking, based solely on this performance, nothing else, his thinking seems to be kind of concrete. He has a style, he has a process, and he isn't really deviating from that in the face of a challenger who is overcoming said process.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, especially based on this performance. And yeah, again, while I said Fajea, again, if you can even see it when they get into these striking exchanges, even now, Fajea is not the more polished fighter. He's just being the more successful one. And at the end of the day, that's ultimately what matters.
Yes. We are down to the last 10 seconds, and it's all Fajea all day long. Yeah, Taisumov is he's showing signs of life, but not a whole heck of a lot. And I think he knows he lost the fight, and Fajea knows he won the fight. So I suspect it'll be 120-0 for Canelo.
I mean, it is Canelo. How can you possibly think he didn't win every fight ever in the history of mankind?
All right, and we have a winner. Your winner by unanimous decision with scores of hit me again, sunshine.
29-28, 29-27, and 29-27, all for Carlos Diego Fajea. In this instance, the 29-27 stems from a 10-8 third round, which I think is entirely appropriate. I didn't give him one. I should have, but...
Now, that's because of cumulative damage and not sufficient response?
Sort of. The criteria for 10-8 rounds under the new scoring system, which is what we're under here, is largely more of a provision about winning the round by a wide enough margin, whereas the old criteria for a 10-8 included a circumstance wherein the fight could have been stopped. You don't need that anymore, thankfully.
Brock Lesnar, Shane Carwin, round 1.
Stop it.
That fight should have been stopped.
Look, for the record, yes, Shane Carwin easily gets a 10-8. Under the new round, that might even be new scoring criteria. I might even go 10-7.
Considering Brock Lesnar admits he was knocked out in that round, yeah.
Look, the number of fighters who admit they've been unconscious briefly during fights is large. It happens all the time.
Okay.
It's not always grounds for a fight stoppage.
Sorry, it was a gross disparity in that one, and I'm a Brock Lesnar fan. So it's my favorite. It's my favorite example.
Carwin scores. I mean, I have a better one, but it's actually kind of gross to watch. It's a genuine 10-7 between Rick Glenn and Gavin Tucker. That should have been stopped, but wasn't. Anyway, again, winning by a wide enough margin is grounds for a 10-8 now. And I think in the third round, Fajea absolutely won by a wide enough margin to warrant a 10-8 score. Ooh, promo for Adesanya and Whitaker. Yes. Hook that to my veins.
A fight so good we're not even doing alternative commentary because Robert doesn't want to be distracted.
Nope. I want to enjoy that. If I didn't have to cover it, I would not even type. I just want to enjoy the violence from those two. Now watch it end in about 2 minutes.
I was going to say, picture Robert sitting naked in front of his computer with no pants on.
Well, that's a bit redundant.
All right. And now, speaking of Robert Winfree without pants, and now for his favorite weight class, heavyweight.
Shut up.
Curtis Blades versus...
Stop.
Blades. Just Blades?
Just Blades. His nickname is Razor.
Got it.
To help people like you pronounce his last name properly, I assume.
Curtis Razor Blades versus Shamil Shamazel Hassan Pfeffer Incorporated. Tell me about this one besides its heavyweight boom.
It's heavyweight. It's going to suck.
Oh.
It's all we can hope for is a fast finish. Look, Curtis Blades is at this point kind of like the Ryan Bader of heavyweight, which is odd considering Ryan Bader now fights at heavyweight. He's got power in his strikes. He's a good wrestler, but it's also painfully obvious when he gets into the cage which mindset he's in. He doesn't mix them together well. If he's afraid of you, he's just going to shoot at you. If he's not, he'll punch with you. But anytime there's an inkling of being afraid, he just dives after takedowns. He's got a good double leg. It's heavyweight. There's not a lot of good wrestlers. Again, there's some, but there's not a... They tend to be at the top of the division, you guys like Miocic or Cormier. There's not a lot of genuinely great wrestlers once you get to, say, numbers 6 through 15. And Blades is a really solid wrestler. He's got good ground and pound, and he's only lost to Francis Ngannou. And it's hard to say that, losing to Francis Ngannou is some giant knock on your career, but it also does seem to be indicative of his ceiling at the moment. I expect him to win this fight. Shamil Abdurakhimov is nothing spectacular.
What's his specialty?
Split decisions.
This is gonna be painful.
He's a decent kickboxer. He's got some decent clinch work and good enough takedowns, but he tends to grind out a couple of rounds of 3 and let that be enough to win. I mean, the fight with Derek Lewis, he outworks Derek Lewis, just kind of keeps him from doing anything for 3 rounds, then realizes, it's a main event, and Lewis is able to stop him in the 4th. Again, I am not looking forward to this fight. I don't know anyone not related to the participants who is. And no, Mark, you don't count, because you weren't looking forward to this. You just stumbled across its existence.
You're absolutely right.
So, again, really the hope is that it doesn't go long, because if it does, it's going to get ugly in a hurry. Okay, for the record, that promo for Whitaker Adesanya was exceptional. Israel Adesanya's rise in MMA has been bizarre. And I mean that as a positive. I mean, he debuted in the UFC in 2018. And he's now in a position to fight for the belt.
That's pretty good.
It's crazy. He was my breakout fighter of the year for 2018, and apart from Daniel Cormier having an absolutely banner year, he finished highly in that discussion.
What was the name of the fighter that came over from Strikeforce who was all the rage and had boyish good looks? I think he had one fight in the UFC which went badly, and then he still got a title shot against GSP, and the promo for that fight was the best one ever. Jake Shields.
Yes, Jake Shields is in fact a human being. He did not, however, only get his title shot on the back of a loss.
No, I didn't say he lost. I just said it didn't go well.
No, it didn't, and it arguably shouldn't have gone his way. He had 2 fights, I think, before the title fight. I'm going to double-check that, actually.
I feel like he had one they thought he was going to win handily, and it went poorly. He still won, probably shouldn't have, and I think the next one was, like, here, can you beat up this bag of sand? We need to justify a title shot.
Nope, sorry. He fought Martin Kampman that went to a split decision. That, again, arguably should not have gone his way. Then he fought George St. Pierre.
Oh, okay.
And GSP beat him. Then he fought Jake Ellenberger and got finished in the first round.
Right.
Then he went on a bit of a winning streak and then lost to Hector Lombard and then was cut because, look, I appreciate what Jake Shields does, but I also understand the common fan, and nothing about Jake Shields appeals to the common fan.
Well, what's funny about Jake Shields was we found this out with guys coming over from Bellator and Strikeforce, where they were fairly dominant in their respective second-tier promotion. But the level of competition from those promotions to the UFC was apparently so vast that a lot of them stumbled on the way in. I mean, some of it's that. Some of it's also this is also very much so relative to the division in which you are competing. Hector Lombard had a hard time finding his footing when he jumped over, and he was like undefeated in Bellator.
Yeah, he never found his footing in the UFC. He had some wins, but no. Lombard suffered from a couple of things. One, hype that did not understand his actual fighting strategy. 2, being in the wrong weight class. 3, not being able to reliably make welterweight and retain anything approximating what made him successful. And, yeah, again, there's a few divisions that outside of the UFC have plenty of talent. Lightweight, for example. You can take unknown lightweights from around the world, drop them in with UFC caliber fighters, and they can win. It's just that talent-rich division. That's not a joke. There's just that many guys with that much talent in that division.
I'm thinking of like Eddie Alvarez. I don't think Eddie Alvarez. I think had a
only
degree
became champion.
Yes, I'm thinking about debuts though.
Oh, okay. If we're limiting the discussion to debuts, yeah, he stumbled a bit against Donald Cerrone.
What's his face? That was also big in Strikeforce, who was their lightweight champion.
Will Brooks. Oh man, what a bizarre turn his career took.
No, not Ill Will. Oh Lord, he's not one of the Diaz brothers, but I believe he was part of their camp.
Still gonna need more.
No.
Give me a fight he took part in.
Hang on. I'm now looking. I'm now having to look up Strikeforce.
Do you mean Strikeforce or Bellator?
No, I mean Strikeforce. Final champions in Strikeforce. Let's see. Gilbert Melendez.
Oh. Yeah, Melendez had a couple of decent fights in the UFC, but there's also a very clear moment when he kind of mentally checks out. And he signs a really big deal with the UFC for money ahead of his title fight with Pettis. Has a good first round against Pettis, then gets choked out in the second, and is just kind of mentally out of the game, fails a drug test.
So Alistair Overeem, his debut is against Brock Lesnar, which went well, but A, Brock Lesnar, and B, shortly thereafter, can't pass a drug test because he's mostly made of Kryptonian blood, and ends up losing his title shots to the point where when he finally can fight and pass a drug test, he starts losing fights.
For the record, just last thing on Gilbert Melendez and Jake Shields, both on the record having failed PED drug tests. So anytime you see them standing next to the Diaz brothers and the Diaz brothers are complaining about steroid use in the sport, yeah, just saying. But that's not, if I might revitalize the Kermit sip meme, but that's none of my business.
So anyway, back to Blades, Razor Blades, and Shamil Shamazel.
Oh, that reminds me. Curtis Blades is, for the record, your biggest favorite on the card at minus 550.
Nice.
I expect him to win this. Knowing my luck, it'll go all 3 rounds.
So, was the mentality with this card try to get as many Russians on here as possible? Because that's the closest thing we've got to Arab.
Yes.
Okay.
And in fairness, a lot of them do come from the Dagestan region, which is geographically quite close.
Okay. Well, no, I wasn't trying to be facetious. Now we are still in very much in the camp of Abu Dhabi and London share the same time zone. Yeah.
I hate you so much for that. You geographical ignoramus.
Yes, indeed. The Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Did Kung Lee ever show up? He showed up once, right, for like a China card, and then he fucked off?
A few fights.
Okay.
He had a couple of fights in the UFC, because Vanderlei Silva smashed him from the clinch, but on one of the Chinese... He's Vietnamese, for God's sake. Anyway, on one of those Chinese cards... He's American, actually, with a Vietnamese origin, ethnically. I mean, the reason, like, his whole thing was, hey, I'm a great Sanda guy, because Sanda incorporates takedowns. He started in Taekwondo and then wrestled in high school. Yeah, he went over and just ran through all of the Chinese guys who've never shot a double leg in an actual wrestling match to save their life. He knocked out Rich Franklin. I think that was Franklin's last fight, actually. I could be wrong about that. But no, he fought like 2 or 3 times at most.
Okay, so he's maybe the one standout guy in terms of debuts from other promotions. Terrific.
I can't remember which fight was his UFC debut. Look that up for me.
Sure. We're actually starting off here. Blades shoots in for a takedown.
He's clearly afraid of the striking power of Shamil Abdurakhimov.
So he's got his back now against the cage, and he is working some strikes from the back, trying to get this guy to open up. Blades' submission game, any good?
No.
Like, what's the likelihood of him successfully getting a rear naked choke?
Less likely than him transitioning to mount and elbowing him in the head.
Gotcha. Well, Shamil tried to stand up and get away, and Blades took him down again, this time in a much more favorable position. He is now in half guard, and this poor bastard is smothered and covered.
This is going to be the fight. And I don't mean it's going to end here. I mean, this is what it's going to look like.
2 bears humping?
That has more aesthetic value.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Who am I kidding? Gentlemen.
If there are any women listening, God bless you.
Yeah.
And feel free to tell Mark, hey, I'm a woman. And how dare you assume my gender?
Yes, please tweet at me.
He is at Mark Radulich, Radulich.
And while you're there, subscribe to us on Podcoin.
Please. Again, you're going to see a lot of this. A lot of just Blades getting takedowns, moving to the ride position, fighting for grips, keeping him down, working punches where he can until somebody gasses.
Shamil finally got back to his feet, and they are now squaring off in the center of the octagon again. Not a tremendous amount of footwork from either fella.
It's heavyweight. Footwork is anathema to their existence.
Blade shoots in again, takedown, and Shamil, and apparently his takedown defense is to curl up into a ball and fall down.
Blades is in somewhat fairness to Abdurakhimov, Blades is a good wrestler.
I understand that, but against a good wrestler, sprawl, you idiot, sprawl.
Sprawl's actually the last step you should take defensively, but I don't want to get into the minutiae of takedown defense.
Okay, I don't see how this is doing him any good either.
Oh no! Don't. Again, sort of. He's about halfway in the first step.
So here we go again. This is why I understand there's probably a finer point that I'm missing as to why you don't want to sprawl, but what he's doing isn't effective. This curling up into a ball against the fence doesn't help.
Because there's nothing to talk about here. The first thing you want to do to stop a double leg is get underhooks. You want to try and block their hands from getting together. If they can't get their hands together, and you can kind of force their arms up above your waist, and so they can't get around the back of your knees, there's no real double leg. They can transition to other things, but that's actually your first line of defense.
Unless I misheard you just described to a degree a sprawl.
A sprawl is getting your hips back. There's plenty of people who sprawl without ever fighting for underhooks.
Okay. I feel like we're splitting hairs then.
That's why I said I don't want to get into the minutiae of it. But then the fighters give us nothing to talk about. Yes, Blades has still got back control.
Shamil is back on his feet, and suplex. Sort of.
Sure. Let's manufacture that and call it a suplex.
He took him down halfway suplex style, and Shamil landed on his side. He's on his knees again. Blades is riding his back.
Again, this will be the fight.
He looks like he was looking for a half Nelson. Shamil is now turned on his hip and back. If you're asking me, how do you do both? He's doing it. I don't know what Blades is trying to do here. I guess he's trying to get to mount.
He's just looking for control positions.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And to continue wrestling. He's not actually looking for a lot of damage or submission opportunities.
Well, he got full mount
primarily
finally.
Control.
He got full mount, and now he's Donkey Konging on Shamil, who is defending and trying to brush him away, but the fight's over.
That lasted about 4 minutes longer than I would have liked.
So let me ask you about that stoppage. He was defending. He wasn't getting a lot of clean shots. He just couldn't get the guy off of him.
That can be enough. Like, again, the standard for intelligent defense is not just I'm not taking gobs of damage. It's am I in a position to actually change taking tons of blows in the future?
But we've seen people fight, and I'm not arguing with you per se, but here's the counter argument. Better fighters have gotten out of full mount before, taking more damage.
Sure. Look, this isn't my favorite stoppage ever.
Yeah, I don't feel like that was... This is going to sound weird because I see the refs... listen to me. Yeah, no, referee. I see the referee's point of view where he just felt like the guy was taking unnecessary damage for no apparent reason. But that's assuming he sucks so bad he can't get out from that position, which I don't think is right.
He's also not doing the things you need to do to get out from under there. He's just... Again, he's got his arms up trying to block striking lanes, which is something. But he's not pushing the hips. He's not trying to shrimp.
So you figure...
They didn't stop the fight, you bizarre human being. The round ended.
Oh, dummy. Okay. I thought he pulled him off of him. And then he looked like he was like, why'd you stop the fight?
He's just unhappy about how the round ended.
Okay, my mistake, everybody. Amateur commentary. You get what you pay for. So, yes, the round ended.
For the record, 10-8 blades.
Okay. Well, I take back everything I said about probably a bad stoppage.
It would have been a bad stoppage if it were actually a stoppage.
Fair enough. Anyway, we begin round 3 where Blades is once again taking
Hey,
Shamil
guess
down.
what? Punches into a double leg. Remember when I called him the Ryan Bader of heavyweight? Do you see the comparison?
Yes, only Ryan might have actually ended this thing by knockout by now.
Nope.
Ryan Bader
Nope.
rose to prominence with knocking bitches
Nope.
out.
Not good. Why are you so ignorant of history?
I recall a streak of knockouts by Ryan Bader when he was coming up.
You are looking through rose-colored glasses.
I might be. Good old Darth Bader. Why are we talking about Ryan Bader? Well, he won. He's fighting tonight on Bellator, which you can tune into after the show ends.
Don't.
Depending on when you're listening to this podcast. But also...
Just don't watch Bellator.
The other issue here in life is that you've got Blades working some ground and pound from the back. See, now this I'd stop. Now the guy's just taking punches, and he's not defending at all. And Blades turns him over on his back in half guard.
Heavyweights. I don't know what your process is for selective brain trauma to forget that this stuff exists so you can be happy and excited about the next one.
I feel like your memory exists in the frontal lobe.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Now I don't want to call it because I was wrong before, but I believe the fight has in fact been stopped.
Check the. You can watch the clock in the bottom of the screen too.
Well, he's slapping hands with people.
Okay, yeah, if he's interacting with his corner like that, it's over.
Yeah. Looks like they're checking on Shamil with the doctor. We may have a broken nose here.
Yeah, almost certainly. There was an elbow he landed that seems to have opened up his nose badly. However...
there's the elbow.
I saw the worst broken nose in MMA history a couple of weeks ago, so...
Okay, so here's another replay. An elbow, boom, right in the nose. And the ref's going to come over and break him up now.
For the record, for those of you who want to see a badly broken nose, Mike Perry versus Vicente Luque from a couple of weeks ago. Genuinely the worst broken nose I've ever seen.
All right, we're back, and your winner by TKO via elbows and punches at 2 minutes, 22 seconds of round 2, in case that all got confusing because I didn't read the clock. Curtis Razor Blades. But more importantly, Ryan Bader.
Let's not.
Wins the Ultimate Fighter.
He knocks out Davi. Not Davi. Excuse me. He knocked out Vinny Magalhaes.
Right.
Who
and
sucks.
And then he gets a decision versus Carlo Marrero. And then he proceeded to decision Eric Schaefer. Then he KO'd with a flying knee and punch in the third round Keith Jardine. And then he got a unanimous decision over... Boy, I am...
I told you! What makes you think I was trying to deceive you about that?
Because then he loses to John Jones. Then he loses to Tito Ortiz.
He got submitted by Tito Ortiz. It was hilarious.
Yes, I vaguely remember that being an embarrassing thing.
Guillotined! And then did the old gravedigger routine. Oh, God. It was great.
So, then he knocked out Jason Brills, because who gives a shit?
The only guys he knocks out are guys who suck.
Then he won a decision over Jackson, Rampage. And then he lost...
guess what? Out wrestling him.
Then he lost via KO to Lyoto Machida.
Yeah, he ran into Machida's fist.
Okay. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of decisions here. All right, I give up.
Look, again, if all you remember is the good stuff, sure. I remember the majority of it, and the majority of it is not good.
All right, so we're on to our first of 3 consecutive lightweight fights here. We've got Islam Makhachev, Magahat, Machiavelli.
Okay, there's a way to actually pronounce it, and then I'm going to try to figure out which way you're going to stick with doing it. Because the KH in that language sounds differently. There's actually a bit of phlegm to it.
Machiavelli?
Islam Makhachev.
Makhachev, got it.
You're Jewish. You should have no problem doing that.
Yeah, I can do the phlegm part. Makhachev, got it. Makhachev.
Look, if you just want to westernize it and call him Makhachev, go for it. That will be the least offensive thing you've said trying to pronounce his last name, I imagine.
So, yes, Islam Makhachev versus Davi Ramos. Go.
Ramos.
What?
He's Brazilian.
Oh,
Ramos.
Jesus Christ. There needs to be an accent mark over the R or something indicating pronounce it like an H.
No, you just should at least loosely be aware of someone's country of origin.
I haven't researched anything for any of my podcasts. I'm not starting now.
I applaud your commitment to the gimmick. I expect a lot, on a serious note, I expect a lot of good grappling exchanges out of these two. Makhachev is kind of... Oh, God. This isn't a one-to-one comparison, but he's kind of Khabib light. He does a lot of his best work against the fence with fence wrestling, but he's got a lot more of a trip and throw game than Khabib does. Khabib much more, again, not that he can't do those things, he just tends more towards the traditional wrestling. Davi Ramos, former Abu Dhabi Combat Club world champion, with a flying armbar, no less. That was insane. Anyway, a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. I expect a lot of fun grappling exchanges from these two. On the feet, I think Ramos has a bit more power, but Makhachev a bit more dynamic with his game and a bit more fluid with it. But I expect a lot of scrambles. I expect a lot of fun stuff on the mat from these two. And if Ramos wants to be successful, I think the big thing he has to do is keep his back off the fence. If they're out in open space when they do a lot more of the grappling, it's a lot more even. Even with someone as diligent as Makhachev, there's so much about his game that relies on the presence of the fence to stifle momentum from his opponents. So keep things in open space, and he'll still take you down, but what happens after that is a lot more manageable if you're on defense than if you have to deal with the fence being there. Despite using it to wall walk, it also really stops you from separating, which is what you need to do against guys like this. I mean, especially, Khabib. The big key, I think, to troubling him is the ability to consistently separate from him, not so much stop his takedowns. Because his takedown accuracy is only like 45%, I think, something like that. He doesn't get you down every time he shoots, but once he makes contact, you can't get free, and that's the problem more than, oh crap, I'm on my back. Which is also not good.
Right, well, while we're waiting for the fighters to enter the cage here, I want to tell you, lucky you, a little something that I love about Podcoin.
Yes,
hey, everybody.
That was a good time for a Podcoin
I really do hope you love the Radulich Broadcasting
Podcoin.
Network. Did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to this podcast? I know it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or if you're a good person, you could even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. Here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a special code for you. Simply use our code MARKWED5. That's capital MARKWED 5. Capital MARKWED 5. MARKWED 5. And you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead and go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on Podcoin and sign up with code MARKWED5. I swear it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. If you're enjoying this commentary, we will be doing another one next Saturday the 14th. Myself and Pat Mullen will be doing a watch-along for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 2. So you can check that out. The following week, myself, Victor Curcado, and possibly Robert Winfree will be checking out some British boxing. Andrew Shelby versus Jay Harris. That card starts at 2 o'clock on ESPN+. I'm sure the main event won't go on until about 4-ish. And that's probably going to be it for the month of September because while Errol Spence versus... What is he fighting? Errol Spence versus Sean Porter is a good fight and one that people wanted to cover with me. I will actually be at a friend's house watching it on their screen projector, so I won't be around to cover that one. But we'll have more boxing and MMA coverage for you in the month of October. I swear is it.
Makhachev is 4 inches taller than Ramos. Only has half an inch of reach, though, so be interesting to see how that plays out.
Ramos, you say, eh?
For the last time, in Portuguese, R's are pronounced like H's.
Yes, but you're now ending his last name with an SH that isn't there.
I don't know. So I do that on occasion.
Is it Hamos or is it Hamosh? Is it Hamish? Is it Amish? The Chinese kitchen?
I don't know.
Robert Winfree doesn't truck with my nonsense.
I really try not to.
All right, we're starting off here. Both fighters in the center of the cage, looking for measuring distance, trying to get the other guy's timing. Not a whole lot being thrown, though. We finally see a left jab from Makhachev. Not much from Ramos. And eggs.
No, neither guy really wants to make a catastrophic error thus far. I don't know. I do put a little bit of that accent on. That's how I've heard it pronounced. I don't know.
Okay, the dude went away. The question mark. There was just question marks there, buddy. Here, take your game back.
Did he encounter unknown?
He's playing Yoshi's Crafted World. He's at a scene where he's supposed to be receiving instructions, but he's 5, so...
That's not a thing.
All right. Makhachev comes forward again. Ramos shrugs him off.
Yeah, there's not a lot here so far.
We should go back to talking about Ryan Bader.
I'd really rather not.
Hey, remember that fight with Chuck Congo and Pat Barry? That was fun.
It was not.
Oh, it was. If you took the same fight and just transposed those bodies over a barroom setting, no one would have known the difference.
That's why it wasn't fun.
No, it was the best.
Look, the best thing about that fight is Pat Barry wearing black shorts, Chuck Congo wearing white shorts, and the graphic at the bottom saying Pat Barry black, Chuck Congo white.
Lenny White, Carl Black. Folks, we're talking about stuff other than the fight because they're literally doing nothing.
Yeah, there is really nothing going on here. This is a deeply engaging staring contest, I suppose.
Occasionally, Makhachev throws something relatively ineffective.
That said, his throwing something occasionally is winning him the round so far.
As opposed to Ramos, who's doing his best impression of hanging meat.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Ramos actually threw a right hand.
Oh, I was incorrect. I need to fix that, actually. I noted that improperly.
Did you say that Lenny was black and Carl was white?
No, I said Ramos was the southpaw. He is not. Makhachev is the southpaw. Yeah, there's not a lot here, guys. I don't know what else to tell you.
So earlier in the week, I referenced that my cancer was doing its best impression of Houston Alexander, just walking in a circle around Kimbo Slice. These guys, kinda doing the same thing. That was a little bit more interactive.
Well, it's also contested between fighters who actually know what they're doing. Whereas Alexander and Kimbo Slice, I don't know what to tell you. It's not very good.
I feel like when Houston Alexander took that fight with Kimbo Slice, it was under duress. And that his performance in that fight was his form of protest.
That's one way you could take that, I'm sure.
I mean, Kimbo Slice looked as confused as everybody else.
Look, he was a very nice man by all accounts, but I'm pretty sure that was just kind of his world state when it comes to the fight game.
Kimbo, what do you think about this situation? I have no idea what's going on, and damn it, where are my pants?
Look, man, it's all going to be okay. I'm going to come back, going to make more money, going to keep fighting. And you win some, you lose some. It's all going to be good.
I vaguely remember his fight with Dada 5000.
I remember it. It was the worst.
I remember watching it and having myself the time of my life.
Look, if you're just watching that for the satire of MMA that is that experience, then it's great.
It really was. Like, it's so funny because I actually don't remember a single thing about that fight.
Dada literally... The finish of that fight is Dada disengages from a clinch, staggers halfway across the cage, and face plants apropos of nothing but his heart giving out. I watched the open workouts, and that's the first time I've ever seen a fighter versus a heavy bag that I definitively know the heavy bag won that fight. He could not reach the speed. He could not hit a speed bag. Couldn't do it.
I remember no details about that fight, but I definitely remember laughing my ass off and having a lot of fun. You died? Why are you crying that you died? By the way, Makhachev 10-9, but barely.
For the record, look.
I could have gone 10-10 on that one.
No, I don't think you could. Look, low activity, sure, but I also think Makhachev pretty clearly wins the round to the extent that the round was won.
Are you going to be okay? You just frustrated with the game?
Yeah, I just died and now I didn't play it.
Why can't you play?
It died.
Oh, the game ran out of batteries. Okay. Well, it'll charge in an hour or so, and you can play again.
But I don't want to wait an hour. I want it now.
Oh, my God. I missed action here. So, Ramos has finally come out of his catatonia and has really gone after Makhachev. He was throwing all kinds of lefts and rights, and he backed him into the cage. I think I'm caught up now. They are fighting for a position against the cage. Makhachev attempts to grab a tie clinch. Ramos don't want none of that, so he backs out. Left kick there to the body from Makhachev.
He's had a lot of success with that strike in particular. Hamos's guard is quite high, and it's leaving his ribs exposed.
All right, both fighters are now standing in the center of the octagon.
That was our prescribed bit of action for the round.
It's like they gave Ramos a hit a crack or something. He was like, ah, and now it's wearing off.
Yeah, and it's odd because he's not, again, this is not an all action fighter in Ramos, but he's usually more active than this. Let me just put it like that.
Exchange of rights there from both fighters. Makhachev. Oh! Got hit there by Ramos. Stumbled a bit. Recovered. Well, Ramos is starting to walk him down now, at least.
Yeah, I don't think either guy really wants to be on the fence, so they're just kind of content to fight in the center of the cage, and Ramos apparently has had enough of that.
Ramos just took a left to the chin.
That punch is also working for Makhachev. He's finding his straight left. Ramos is not having a tremendous amount of success in this fight so far.
So I'm not sure. So I don't know if it's just wind gave out on him or if it's too hot in there. But I mean, he was having success to the degree, that it was better than the first round when he went after Makhachev. But
he also didn't do a whole. Again, he swung a lot, but I don't think he landed all that much from that flurry.
So Ramos is doing one strike per engagement.
And Makhachev is working combinations. He's working not extended ones, but he's throwing 1, 2, 3, or probing with a body kick, and he's outworking Ramos and is again he's winning. Ramos isn't doing anything all that effective, and he's getting punched a lot.
Well, Ramos has convinced himself he can end this fight with one punch, but he can't seem to find the punch to do it. Ramos has taken some hits in this round.
A lot. He's been hit a lot numerically. Again, this is not the fight I expected, but this is going well if you're Makhachev.
We are less than 30 seconds away from the end of round 2. Makhachev with a pretty decent lead over Ramos.
For a guy who has leaned so heavily on his wrestling throughout his UFC run thus far in Makhachev, this is actually a really surprising break from style. He's showing a different level of his game here, and he, again, to his credit, like, if you're as good a wrestler as he is, and that's been your bread and butter, to spend this entire fight basically in a kickboxing match and be this successful, good on you.
There's a producer or somebody in a high-ish level of management, maybe Dana White himself, who kind of has a team meeting with these guys, and depending on the distribution and coverage, pay-per-view versus, say, ESPN Plus or something, saying to them, hey, big stage, big performance, okay? I'm not going to tell you how to fight, but be thinking about your current position on this particular card.
There's always a meeting with Dana and the fighters where he tries to do the Super Bowl halftime coach thing and fire them up.
Mm-hmm. So
to the extent that it's successful or just an ego stroke is unclear.
I'm wondering if the message being winked is, let's not do a lot of wrestling here, okay? People don't like it. It's not fun to watch. People would rather see you stand and hit each other than a lot of, highest level grappling and jiu-jitsu that nobody likes.
I would submit to you that if you're turning in to see a card headlined by Khabib Nurmagomedov, that's not really a consideration.
Well, I don't think he tells the main event. Oh, shit! Makhachev, I don't know what he did, but Ramos got knocked down to the ground, and Makhachev is all over him. Just pound after pound, line after line, empty shells fall to the ground, as KMFDM once said.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know what a KMFDM is?
Not at all.
Your musical taste, sir. Anyway.
My musical taste is fine.
So, yes, lots of ground and pound there. Ramos definitely avoids having the fight stopped. Makhachev is now firmly in Ramos's guard. I'm not sure what they're doing at this point. I know Ramos has one of his hands locked up, just trying to keep this from progressing to a finish. I'm not entirely sure what Makhachev is doing to advance his position at this time. But yeah, he started off with a crazy flurry there, and Ramos wilted and fell backwards.
I think Makhachev landed either a left uppercut or a knee, as Ramos was kind of looking to change levels there, and that's what caused his legs to go out from under him.
Okay.
This is the area that I was kind of interested in, what Ramos could do from his guard with Makhachev on top of him, because Ramos has a good guard. But, good guards in jiu-jitsu and good guards in MMA necessitate different things at times.
Yeah. Makhachev consent to just kind of sit in the guard and pound on him when he gets an opportunity to.
He's got a really interesting lockdown on Makhachev's left arm. I've lost it, but he had one.
Ramos, I think, is attempting to now shrimp out from underneath, but Makhachev, to his credit, even in guard, is belly to belly. He's not allowing there to be space for Ramos to shrimp out, move his hips, try to get away. He's just smothering him.
Ramos is doing a good job with his guard in terms of mitigating some damage and trying to get things going, but Makhachev is being very, very diligent about following his hips around whenever he tries to move them, about posturing through any attempts to control him, and finding spots to do damage. He's constantly looking to be effective with his strikes rather than just hang out. You can see Ramos now again trying to control posture more than anything else. Surprised he's not putting more effort into wall walking, but he might not feel it at the moment and might not want to open himself up to that kind of damage. Yeah, this is kind of what I expected from Makhachev earlier. I expected him to fight to get things down. Near armbar there from Ramos, which shows off one of the things about how you can use the cage to your advantage on the bottom. He tried to use it to bridge and help him get the angle for his hips, wasn't able to secure it, but he's still there doing stuff.
We got less than 30 seconds left on the clock, and they have really not changed positions. Ramos has lost this round. Sorry, Ramos. Ramos has lost this round. At this point, they're just kind of, with whatever distance they can, whatever arm movements they can muster, they're just kind of bopping each other. But, finally, oh, fancy kicker, you. Makhachev in the final seconds of the round just finally got off of him and allowed him to come back up, and it was at that moment that Ramos said, "I'm going to win this on style points," and decided a cartwheel kick.
That I assume missed.
It didn't do anything, but it looked really, really fancy. All right, we got our final scores here. Your winner by unanimous decision. There's a fucking shock. Islam Makhachev.
The real shock is that one judge gave Davi Ramos one of the rounds.
Yeah,
I cannot for the life of me figure out which one.
I'm just now seeing that. Yeah, I'm seeing two 30-26s, which means at least one of those rounds was a 10-8.
The third.
And then 129-27.
I assume they gave Ramos the first for reasons that remain unclear to everyone not named Clucky or Canelo.
Yeah, maybe the second just because of that flurry in the beginning.
No. I don't even think that. He just got hits. Then again, okay, let me be clear. A judge might have done that. It ignores the fact that he got punched in the face by a ratio of about 3-1 after that flurry, and most of the flurry didn't land, but relying on judges to not be terrible is not a thing that you can do at this point.
It's good to know Clucky is alive and well and roaming about Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, keep him there. We don't want him anywhere else.
Anyway. Next up, Edson Barboza versus Paul Felder.
This is a rematch of the fight from 2015 that Barboza won, I believe, via unanimous decision. I'm going to double check that. Actually, I'm not sure.
Is it the spinning heel kick that's been like Is it the spinning heel kick that was the highlight of his career?
That depends. I mean, that's the one they show all the time when he wheel kicked Terry Edom.
Not a spinning heel kick, a wheel kick.
Whatever. The difference between those two techniques is buried in the weeds. I use the phrases somewhat interchangeably.
Okay.
I mean, the actual best win of his career, I think, was the flying knee knockout over Beneil Dariush, which was really nice. He's in a rough spot right now. He's 1-4 in his last 3 fights.
Oof.
He was knocked out by Justin Gaethje, had a doctor stoppage when he fought Kevin Lee, and was mauled for 3 rounds by Khabib. Between the Lee and Gaethje fights, he beat Dan Hooker.
So how did he end up in a co-main event spot on a UFC pay-per-view?
Because he's a very fan-friendly fighter.
Gotcha.
That's really about it.
Paul Felder.
Also a fan-friendly fighter, hence his position here. Felder, I wish he was... Paul Felder's done some commentary work for the UFC and does a very, very good job. He's on a good run, actually. His only loss, he is 4-0 in his last 5 lightweight fights. Prior to beating James Vick, he took a fight at welterweight and lost a split decision to Mike Perry. So in the lightweight division, he's on a pretty good run, actually, with stoppage wins over Stevie Ray and Charles Oliveira, and he just beat James Vick. This is, however, a bit of a stylistic issue for him when it comes to this matchup in particular. The game plan for beating Barboza involves a lot of pressure. And Paul Felder is not much of a forward pressure fighter with the degree of urgency you need to kind of really upset Barboza. Barboza wants you to kind of follow him as he circles so he can time you and get a rhythm going. And then he picks you apart. And I think Felder's style has been demonstrated to be accommodating of that. Now, that might be different here, but the same game plan would have worked better against James Vick than what he did. I mean, Vick actually broke his ribs with a kick and punctured his lung with it.
Oof.
He won that, yeah. Paul Felder won that fight with a collapsed lung, so good for him. Man's tough. But to beat James Vick, you just have to pressure him and hit him as he leans back with his hands down. And he didn't do it. So I'm wondering how adaptable elements of his style are. If he can close distance and get to the clinch, his elbows are nasty, and he will light Barboza up with them. But, again, some of his footwork and some of his general strategy, I think, tends to favor Barboza in the stylistic matchup.
So, what comes out of this fight for the winner?
Better position in the title scene, but neither of these guys are necessarily sniffing a title shot unless they do something spectacular.
Right now, after, depending on who wins, this, if it's Dustin Poirier, you probably do a rematch with Nurmagomedov. If Nurmagomedov wipes the floor with him, we find the next pig hostage for Nurmagomedov to dismantle. So, which pig hostages are we looking at?
Well, look, the most deserving next contender for the winner of the main event, regardless of who it is Tony Ferguson.
Ah, yes, the fight that is so cursed, I think Dana White just gave up trying to make it.
Which is one, look, if you're going to pick the upset for Dustin Poirier, and again, he has ways to win that fight. I'm not trying to undersell his ability as a fighter. But I saw someone on Twitter point out that Ferguson versus Nurmagomedov is so cursed we'll never see it. That's why Poirier's winning. Especially because both Dustin Poirier and Khabib have said, yeah, Tony Ferguson should be fighting for the belt next. And he should. He probably would have been in this position if he hadn't had his mental breakdown.
He had a mental breakdown?
Little bit, yeah.
Huh. Wonder what happened.
I don't know. He's getting help. He's has some issues with paranoia and erratic behavior, and seems to be more. And again, getting help for it. He's fighting again. He just massacred some poor schlub not that long ago. He beat Donald Cerrone.
Has anyone taken care to see if maybe this is brain damage?
To the degree that you can, I imagine that's been looked at.
I hope so.
I also think it's just hanging out too much with Eddie Bravo. That kind of thing.
Okay.
He was at one point was documented, or his wife mentions he was worried about a microchip being implanted in his knee after it was reconstructed surgically. He took apart part of their fireplace because he thought people were spying on him. There's just some kind of erratic behavior, but nothing violent. And he's been getting some of the help that he apparently needs. to the point where all parties seem okay with him fighting again.
Okay, listen, it's 2019. We've had an interesting world of post-concussion syndrome, and the man does get hit in the head for a living.
True. He also doesn't get hit that much, in somewhat fairness to his point.
Yeah, but genetics and your ability to everybody's different.
I agree. Now, again, apparently he's passed whatever screening protocols they have to the extent that they have. I couldn't tell you about how each state varies from state to state, but he's fighting, and
the funny thing about the human body in modern medicine, before we actually start calling this fight, is you're not sick until the doctor looks at the right thing.
That is very true.
All right, so these two guys have squared off in the center of the cage. There's been a pretty even exchange of strikes, both hands and feet. Finally, Paul Felder got tired of being hit in the head by Edson Barboza, tied him up, and drove him back into the cage. And now Felder is looking for a takedown off the cage. Barboza is wise to the game and is defending it.
You can see Felder already trying to counter the leg kicks with a spinning back fist. Interesting choice, but a bit too gimmicky, I think, to work reliably. You've also seen, again, prior to that bull into the clinch, some of what I was talking about. He's accommodating of what Barboza wants to do, because it's kind of what he wants to do as well.
Finally, the two decide this is going nowhere, and they back off the cage. They've taken the center of the octagon again. Edson Barboza's just working that leg kick, boy.
You got to give him a reason to stop doing it. And Felder is not offering a reliable one just yet.
Return fire leg kick from Paul Felder.
That's a way to help dissuade. I mean, this is one of those things that people don't seem to understand. Having good leg kicks doesn't mean you have good leg kick defense. Like, leg kicking with a good leg kicker is dangerous, but it is a genuine methodology of stopping them from doing it.
Paul Felder is already cut above the eye.
There's a lot of scar tissue on his face. He cuts a lot.
Not sure how close to the eye it is, if it's not more at the crown of his head.
His nose is bleeding as well, I think.
We had another engagement up against the fence, but nothing came of it.
Yeah, this is kind of the fight I expected, and this is the kind of fight that Edson Barboza historically does very well in. Not that Felder can't win, but if past his prologue, this is the type of fight Barboza does excel in.
We have stopped the fight. Not stopped it, finished it, but we have paused for the cause here so that he can get looked at by the doctor. Did he get poked? Is that what he's saying?
I'll tell you in a second.
All right, well, whatever it was, he got over it because they're back to fighting.
I think that cut is by the hairline, and it doesn't look all that bad.
They stopped to check the cut? Is that what happened?
No, I'm just noting that now that I can kind of see the cut. Yeah.
Paul Felder has been walking into combinations by Edson Barboza.
I think Felder complained of either an eye poke or a headbutt, just a clash of heads on an exchange. I'm not sure which one.
It was if it's one of those, it's definitely a clash of the heads because I didn't see any finger poke. I did see, however, heads bumping. So yeah, Paul Felder has, since the break in the fight, walked into two sets of combinations. Barboza.
Okay, we got the replay. They just kind of bumped heads in the clinch situation, and Felder wanted to get his eye checked out. And you know what? Fair play. You don't want to screw around with your vision.
Nice kick in the body by Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza doing a very good job of not letting himself get hit in the head.
Again, a lot of pressure is the key to that. Paul Felder is not pressuring him the way you need to.
Round kick hit right in the shoulder by Edson Barboza.
Yeah, Felder's face is kind of a mess. You're also seeing a hand speed advantage for Edson Barboza that's playing out here. And again, you look at Felder trying to land stepping elbows, which are great techniques, but he's giving Barboza too much space to evade while doing it, and that's also anytime Barboza gets towards the kind of the warning track area, you can see the two black lines that mimic the octagon. But the difference in how you fight between those lines in the fence and between those lines in the center of the cage is marked. Barboza doesn't really want to be back there. Anytime he gets towards that area, he'll actually drop his hands and just really make sure he gets away to circle off of it because he's not comfortable there. And Felder's letting him relocate essentially at will when he gets into those positions.
That's the end of the round. They are trying to clean up this man's face, which has gone through the windshield. This man being Paul Felder. And we see in the replay here a leg kick from Edson Barboza, and then Felder tried to fire back with a spinning back fist, which was blocked.
Yeah, that's an interesting technique for him to try and use to counter, but I think he showed it too early, and now Barboza's a little wise to it.
All right, here we go. Round 2. Fight.
Incidentally, 10-9 Barboza in the first round.
Yeah. So, we're talking about hand speed. Barboza just has an overall speed advantage to Felder.
Yes. Barboza is a very quick individual. And while Felder is not exactly a slow fighter, he's at a speed disadvantage. And he's not doing some of the things you need to do to really kind of mitigate that. Again, how you pressure Barboza, how you cut the cage off, how you get in his chest consistently, that's what matters here. And that's not really what Felder's doing. He's content to step forward and get into the pocket, but he doesn't take the extra step that will force Barboza to then try to reassess his positioning.
Felder attempted a takedown there. Nothing came of it.
Barboza's hard to take down.
So Barboza laid in a leg kick. Felder responded. Barboza used the opportunity to light him up with punches and kicks. And now Barboza has taken Felder down. This fight not going Felder's way at all.
Surprising to see a takedown from Barboza. That's not usually his bailiwick, but credit to him for doing the unexpected.
Well, so far it's working. So, while he's just kind of hanging out in guard there, how is Barboza's jiu-jitsu game?
I don't know. There's not a tremendous amount of evidence.
Okay.
He doesn't do a lot of this, and when he does, he tends to be on the receiving end and really just working to get back to his feet, or is just being overwhelmed by smothering wrestlers like Kevin Lee or Khabib.
Felder in defense tried to throw up a triangle, didn't really go anywhere. So Barboza got this great takedown, has not been tremendously effective in the guard. However, Felder has been hitting him pretty much at will from the bottom.
Yeah, Felder is very diligent about using elbows from his back, and
I'm pretty sure Barboza's bleeding all over Felder.
Oh yeah, I think one of those early flurries of elbows cut him on the head.
Yeah, I can see now blood's. Felder is trying to lock in an armbar, and Barboza stood up and Felder couldn't hang on, so he got dropped on his back. But yeah, Felder is wearing a lot of Barboza's blood all over him.
Yeah, he's cut. I don't think it's that bad. I'm going to have to double check when I get a better look at where it's coming from. But again, Felder really good about being diligent off his back, and Barboza not doing a tremendous amount on top. And he is doing stuff, but he's not. If you were to just consider the position neutral, which you should, Felder's actually more being the more efficacious fighter. I think that cuts on Barboza's left eyebrow. That's kind of what it looks like to me, somewhere in that area. Yeah, again, you can see Felder stalking forward, but he's not actively pressuring Barboza the way you kind of need to. You watch Barboza when he fights against guys like Khabib, who just ran at him, basically. Or Gaethje had a more measured approach, but still had that kind of just relentless forward pressure that Barboza just doesn't like to deal with. And Justin Gaethje is also a maniac, which helps. Can't wait for him and Cowboy. That's going to be so great.
Felder hasn't exactly folded in round 2, but he hasn't come up with a tremendous amount, except for when Barboza was laying on him, to really come back in this round.
Yeah, he found some success, but it was in an area that Barboza's not terribly confident in generally, just the grappling game.
Felder tries to shoot in for a double. Barboza goes back into the cage. We've got almost 10 seconds left. I can't see this resulting in much of anything for Felder. We have a knee in the clinch from Barboza, and there goes another one. And
that left body kick from Barboza has really got Felder thinking about it. Watch the positioning of his right hand on the restart. He's keeping that thing close to his ribs, and that is going to open up the head kick.
So, we're in the corner here with Barboza. What's being discussed, you think? Or what's to be discussed?
A bit of encouragement, a little bit of, keep mobile, keep chopping at him with the kicks when you're moving. A little bit of clinch advice, I would imagine, just about how he can break more easily, because that will drain your energy more than striking, especially if you're Edson Barboza.
Some pats on the ass of encouragement for Paul Felder. Very nice.
Barboza looks very winded.
Yeah, did you see him at the end of that round? He was kind of hanging on his knees, and they put the stool underneath him.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, we've mentioned before, this is a very hot event. And Barboza's not exactly a cardio king to begin with.
No, he's got some pretty good musculature on him. I'm sure that takes a fair amount of oxygen.
Yeah. This is not to say he's, has terrible cardio, because I don't think that's true, but he has faded in the past. And Felder might be kind of banking on that at this point, and will be looking to come on strong once Barboza's legs aren't under him anymore. Of course, again, you're still going to have to pressure him in a way that is slightly different from how you've been pressuring him. But keeping Barboza fighting a high-paced fight and then hoping to wear him out late is not the worst idea in the world. Not the best idea, and this fight could have been easier. Again, if you just pressure him, he struggles. But it doesn't look like Felder's flying by the seat of his pants, necessarily.
Felder could wrestle victory from the jaws of defeat if he stays on top of Barboza and really puts the pressure on. But because right now he's losing the fight on the scorecards.
Almost certainly. And again, you see now Felder is coming forward more. I'd like the pressure to be a little more urgent. Again, not reckless, but a bit more consistent, because at the moment he is still giving Barboza space and time, which is the one thing which is what you really don't want to do, especially as he fades. Don't let him find a second wind.
Well, Felder nailed him with a left hook. Barboza didn't like that at all. Which it's so funny to me, because he scores a really big hit. Barboza acknowledges it, and it's like, don't wait for approval. Go. Hit him again. The follow-up in MMA sometimes a little weird. Like, I'm all for good sportsmanship, but I think they get a little silly at times.
You are not wrong.
You used the word urgency before, and I feel like there's a lot of fighters that lack that.
And I understand not wanting to put yourself in a really bad position, but again, if you're going to fight to win, there comes a point when you do need to put a little bit, get on the gas a little bit to the extent that you're able.
Yeah, again, you don't have to be Pat Barry, but, you know, you
in fact, you're better off not.
You should not be Clay Guida either. I'm just bouncing, and I'm in a circle, and I'm bouncing, and oh, look at my hair, it's bouncing too.
And oh crap, I lost again. And I will now bounce all the way back to the locker room because I'm Clay Guida.
Because the wonderful thing about Guidas are wonderful things.
Oh, stop it. I've seen Jason. I have seen Jason Guida. I know that's a lie.
Yeah, I admit though, that was damn funny.
I'll give you a bit of humor off of that, yeah. We see some more spinning. Yeah, again, Felder having more success here, but he needs a finish.
I'm sorry, I've lost interest in this fight. I'm now thinking about Tigger fighting Winnie the Pooh in the octagon. But,
Pooh wins.
But well, the version of this that I'm thinking of is Clay Guida versus Gray Maynard. Gray Maynard is Winnie the Pooh.
How dare you, sir? Winnie the Pooh is a beloved character that has meant the world to millions and millions of people since his inception. Gray Maynard barely exists.
I say Gray Maynard is a living embodiment of malaise. He is, as his name suggests, just the gray.
I occasionally forget he exists, and I have seen all of his UFC fights.
Well, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. Except for maybe a fight against Frankie Edgar. Maybe.
Even then, you only need to see one of those.
Yeah. Okay, another exchange of strikes there from Felder and Barboza. Another tie-up against the fence. Yes.
Again, this is not a boring fight by any stretch of the imagination.
No. I being hypercritical and trying to be funny. But we have less than 30 seconds left on the clock as they are tied up against the fence. Barring any strange happenings, do you think Felder did enough to win this round?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards him this round, but again, he's down the previous two, and will now complain about the decision, if I had to guess.
And he just, at least for seconds there, got taken down.
Felder's bleeding out of his left ear.
All right, we have a decision. Clucky the Chicken has weighed in, and your winner by split decision, Paul Felder, over Edson Barboza with a score of 27-30, 29-28, and 30 motherfucking 27. Okay.
This makes no sense to me. Look, I suppose I can reasonably accept that there exists a way to give Paul Felder the second round. I disagree with it, but maybe you can give him 2 rounds. Under no circumstances did he win all 3. Absolutely none.
I certainly don't think he won the first round.
Yeah,
and then maybe you give.
Sense.
I was gonna say maybe you give him the third round. Like I said, the second and third round,
I mean, he wins the third. That's not really in dispute. I disagree with giving Barboza the third.
Okay.
If I might quote Brett Okamoto, my confidence in the accurate judging going on right now is not exactly rock solid.
Well, I believe both Khabib and Dustin need to go into their title fight with the idea to finish the goddamn thing, because apparently there's an entirely good chance it's going to be won 120-0 by Canelo.
Yeah, that seems like a thing that could happen.
Clucky is in effect. He has escaped whatever asylum he was in, and he has shown up in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't think 30-27 for either guy. I'm slightly more sympathetic to 30-27 for Barboza, but even then, I don't think he won the last round.
No, the correct score should have been 29-28 Barboza.
Yeah, that I agree with you. I think that is the correct score.
So, let me ask you a question. As you proceed to put the chicken meme I sent you into your coverage.
I'm gonna try. I don't know how well it'll.
Did you find it?
Yes, I'm working on WordPress. Some of the embedded stuff is weird, so who knows? We'll find out.
All right, I'll be very disappointed if I don't see it in your coverage. But more to the point. So we have 3 split decisions now on this card, and I'm wondering if you know of a card that has the dubious honor of having the most split decisions on an event.
We are not close to that.
Okay, it's more than 3, obviously.
I'm fairly certain it's like 5.
5 split decisions?
You know what? I know who to ask about this. Hang on.
Okay.
I know who on Twitter I can ask, and they will probably know this.
I would imagine it's a card that you covered and you wanted to rip both your eyeballs out.
We'll see. Hang on, where is he?
So, while we're waiting for our main event to start and to find out who has the record, which card has the record for the most split decisions, and for Robert to embed the funny chicken meme I sent him because #Clucky, on your UFC Fight Pass. But folks, if you're playing Radulich and Broadcasting Bingo, I'm going to say a bunch of names. Let's see how many I can get wrong. On the UFC Fight Pass prelim card, we have Don Madge versus Faris Zayam, who won. Don Madge won by unanimous decision. Omari Akhmedov versus Zach Cummings, another unanimous decision. Muslim Salakov versus Nordin Taleb.
Ooh, that hurt. That one hurt.
KO punch at the end of the first round. Moving on to your FX ESPN Plus. FX, how did that happen?
I don't know. It was both on FX and ESPN Plus.
I understand that, but they are no longer signed to Fox, so I ask you again, how did that happen?
Leftover broadcast deal, one-time negotiation because ESPN is showing college football, and that drives much more traffic. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean ESPN Plus. Does it really matter? It's a streaming platform. You can show all the stuff you want, I would assume.
I don't know how it works. Don't ask me to make sense of the contracts the UFC signs.
Omar Zaitar defeated Timu Pokemon by KO punch in the first round at 3 minutes and 33 seconds. Sarah Moraes defeated Liana Jajua by TKO punches and elbows in the third round, which was a catchweight fight because Sarah weighed in at 138 pounds.
Apparently a fair number of people seem to think that Felder won the second and third. And again, the second was a much more competitive round. I'm not unsympathetic to 29-28 Felder, even though I disagree with it, just for the record.
Yeah, okay. We watched the same fight differently. That's all I can say.
Again, look, I can disagree with it while accepting that under the scoring criteria that MMA operates under, you can have there are rounds that could reasonably go to either fighter. And again, I don't agree with it. That doesn't mean I do not acknowledge that you can reach that conclusion.
Okay. Have you updated your 401 coverage?
Yes. So I don't know how that embedded or not. And
oh boy, let's see. This is what you turned into alternative coverage for, ladies and gentlemen.
I was just there. Let me look again. Let me see if it's the stupid.
No, I want to do it.
Too late. I'm here. Nope. It is just a link. It is not actually embedded. Hang on.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
That's what I'm going to have to do. Embedding imagery is weird.
When did this happen? I used to embed all kinds of stuff into my coverage.
before we moved to WordPress.
Mm.
Hang on.
Yeah, I don't. You have a Twitter link too. Oh no, those are coming up.
Yeah, those will show up in a second or two. It just takes a while for the media to process. But I embed those as media. This I can only find the link for as such. I can't find an embed code for that image.
Really? You can't just do like the usual code?
That's what I did.
Okay.
I just spat it out onto the page, and that's what came up. That's what I do for the Twitter things. I click the embed link, and I spit it out onto the page.
I don't even see the link.
It should be there just after the.
Okay, no, you have it. It says text is the problem.
Yes, I have the link. I can't.
Like it's linking. Like it's not linking to anything. It's just text.
Yeah, I know. Hang on. I don't know how to fix that.
Hope everyone's having fun.
Hang on. Let me look at Clucky imagery again. Let me see. I'm gonna find it, because I even tried clicking on the. I even tried clicking on the thing, and it's not. It wouldn't actually load properly. So I don't know what to do about that.
Want me to send you a different picture?
You can't, even if you send them to me, I don't upload them from my computer.
Oh, okay.
I mean, even before, I was having to upload my stuff to PhotoBucket and then link, and then that died because PhotoBucket sucks.
I think when I was doing 401 coverage, I was doing the PhotoBucket thing.
Yeah, that's what I did. I had an entire folder of Clucky pictures that I would just choose which one I thought was most appropriate. Yeah, I don't think that's going to show up. I don't know why it won't, but it won't. Because I tried the share thing, and it just if I copy the image link, then that's what comes up, and that's the weird thing. I can at least put this on Twitter.
Can I put a picture in the comment section?
You can certainly try. Again, go for it if you want to give it a shot.
Nah, I'm fine.
Okay, for the record, on split decisions, UFC 222 and UFC Fight Night, Henderson versus Masvidal both have 5.
Nice. All right. Well, this one's not going to beat that. All right. So, as riveting as I'm sure this discussion has been, embed codes and all, we are ready for our main event.
Khabib. It's Khabib time.
Yes, we're here. We're finally here. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Dustin Poirier. I would imagine going into this fight, things were a lot more civil, that he won't be diving over the cage ready to murder the entire walkout crew of the fighter, Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, they were very complimentary of each other. There was no drama. Both confident, but there was no trash talk. This is incidentally the first time that Khabib's father, Abdulmanap, is in his corner for a UFC fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least the first time in many, many years. If not, I've heard the first time ever. I'm not sure if he didn't make the trip a few times for like his first couple of fights, but I'm not sure. Some of those might have been overseas too, so I don't know. But yeah, in a long time, this is the first time his father's been in this corner, and if you're familiar with Khabib's story, his father means an awful lot to him.
Yes, I would imagine that's part of what drove him absolutely crazy with the McGregor fight. Is I think McGregor said something about his father.
Called him a coward, and referenced some deep-seated ethnic tensions in the region about the ethnic Chechen purge that went on in Chechnya and how that affected the region of Dagestan. Because Conor McGregor has no line. Yeah, he said a lot of stuff, and Khabib proceeded to beat the crap out of him.
Yes, I remember that fight. That was whenever that was last year or the year before. That was where I watched that in a hot tub on my anniversary, as a matter of fact.
You were in a hot tub with your wife, and for some reason you were also watching Khabib versus Conor.
Yeah, it was the best night.
Hang on. That's either the best night of your life or your marriage is on the rocks.
It was the best night of my life.
Fair enough. Make sure you tell your children that. Better than when they were born.
Jonas. The best night of my life was the night your mom and I sat in a big boiling bath and watched one of these guys beat up a stupid Irishman.
Are you talking about when we were on the cruise?
No, it wasn't when we were on the cruise, buddy.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to watch any MMA on the cruise. Wish I could have, though. Anyway, second best night of my night was the night that you and your sister was born.
Khabib an inch taller, Poirier 2 inches of reach. Not sure how much he'll be able to maximize that, but worth noting as far as the tail of the tape goes.
I don't really think my son cares where I rank him in terms of events in my life.
Yet. Look, you just planted a bomb, okay?
Well, if my relationship with my parents is anything like his relationship is going to be with me, nothing I do will matter.
You can only hope.
All right, we are about to get underway here. What's the odds this ends in the first round? What do you think?
I haven't looked up the specifics odds as it pertains to.
I want your personal odds. No, I don't need Vegas odds.
My personal odds, probably on the lower side. Both of these guys, especially at this level, tend to take more time to really get going.
Mm-hmm.
Khabib hasn't ended a fight in the first round since he fought Thiago Tavares, I want to say.
Well,
yeah, that was it. So that was 6 years ago.
I don't have anything personal against Dustin Poirier, but I do want to see this finish quickly with minimal damage to Khabib so we can get that Ferguson fight sooner than later.
Not going to happen. Poirier's last first round finish was when he beat Bobby Green in 16. Other than that, it's second and third and fourth round kind of stuff.
Whatever happens, if Khabib wins and they do make that fight, freeze the two of them in carbonite until the day of the fight.
Yeah, I want that fight. I've said for a couple of years now that's the best fight you can make in all of MMA.
Could just shut down the sport after that?
No. I just think that right now, what represents, for me, the most intriguing representation of high-level mixed martial arts violence and strategy, Khabib and Tony. There's other fights I look forward to more. Again, Cowboy and Gaethje is next week, and I'm, again, irrationally happy. UFC just announced Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz to main event their Madison Square Garden card at UFC 244. That's a good fight.
That's going to be tits out, man.
Yeah, well, again, there's plenty of other fights, but if the question is what do I think is the best, just overall best,
it involves Derek Lewis.
Get out. He's got. Is that mini Khabib in his corner? I think it is. If it is, good for you, Khabib.
We get a sportsman-like handshake. Very good.
Again, there's no bad blood between these two.
Well, thank God for that. Because look,
I know.
Well, I mean, I enjoy a good Donnybrook as much as the next person, but I really don't want to see Khabib diving into a sea of Arab folk wearing the headdress and the whole 9 yards there. It would be bad luck for the UFC. All right, here we go.
The legal ramifications for that in somewhere like the UAE is different from New York. I'll just put it like that.
With New York, you get a light talking to.
That's all Conor got after throwing a dolly at a bus. Just saying.
Poirier starts off with a leg kick. Again,
interesting decision. He's also fighting southpaw, as he normally does.
He throws a left front kick. Khabib opted to catch it by the heel and almost didn't let it go there for a moment.
He does that a lot. He will catch kicks and then facilitate takedowns.
It looks like Khabib is trying to figure out when he's going to shoot in on Poirier.
There's going to be a bit of timing. Khabib's not a blind rush kind of guy necessarily. He likes to have a feel for you and time you, especially if he's trying to conserve his energy, which is a consideration that you have to take into for him generally because he's such a big lightweight, and especially under the conditions they're fighting here.
Khabib throws a combination, and there's the takedown he's had in the chamber for the whole duration of this fight. He converts to a single. Poirier is still blocking. Khabib's dug in there, though. He's not giving up on this.
Yeah, getting him off of you once he makes contact is a Herculean feat. Again, it's not just his wrestling, which is quite good. It's his ability to maintain contact once contact is made.
Yep, down goes Poirier.
That has troubled so many people.
Poirier is trying to get back to his feet, but Khabib is still on him. As you're saying, he's not willing to let this go. He starts attacking the legs in order to get the takedown again. Up, he spins, and he's got Poirier's back. This is not looking good for Poirier. He's got the hooks in, and we are working towards a rear naked choke.
I'd be a little surprised if he gets it that quickly. Poirier is a very good grappler, and Khabib is not much of a submission threat, all things considered.
Poirier is still defending, but he is at Khabib's mercy. Oh. Okay. We've got it. We've got the arm around the mouth, really, not really around the neck. Let go of it pretty quickly. Poirier, I think, is also working on Khabib's arm. Khabib finally stops and resumes punching Poirier in the face. He's got it. He's grabbing at his face now. Khabib is.
Yep, he'll do that.
And Poirier's just absorbing a lot of punishment here. We're alternating between cranking on the head and punching him in the face. Go see your sister. Yeah, he's just cranking on his head and neck. We're not really getting a choke here. Dustin protected his neck pretty well, but that didn't stop Khabib from yanking on his head.
No, I mean, again, he did submit. What he submitted Conor McGregor with was not a traditional choke. It was a neck crank. He wasn't under the chin. He's got a squeeze on him, and he'll just crank on your neck to make you uncomfortable so he can then punch you in the face more if he doesn't really feel the choke.
They are now standing and wrestling against the fence, but Khabib is driving Poirier back to his knees. He has him around the back. This has been all Khabib all day long so far. Poirier seems like just utterly frustrated, just doesn't know which direction to go next.
Look, as long as he doesn't look like as long as he doesn't have a look of what just hit me on his face, he's still okay.
No, he's in the fight in so much as he's conscious and coherent.
Well, I don't even mean that. I mean mentally. You've seen plenty of guys when they fight Khabib, after that first round, they have this look on their face like, what just hit me?
And where are my pants?
Yeah, and if you can avoid that, the frustration you can deal with. If you mentally check out because what in the world just happened to me, that's when you're in real danger.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's got that going on in his eyes. I think it's more of, I don't know what to do with this fella, and I do this professionally.
Yeah, Khabib's game is... It's not entirely unique, but he is a very unique animal in that respect.
All right, Khabib has got full mount, and he is laying in elbows on Poirier. And that's the end of the round. 10-8 for Khabib?
Yeah, with the time in mount especially, yeah. A near one, but yeah, I think so.
Based on the scoring criteria which you have said ad nauseum to me tonight, I can't see that as anything but a 10-8.
I would agree with that, yeah.
I mean, Poirier was barely defending himself, and the only reason why the fight wasn't stopped was he was conscious, and Khabib didn't commit to one single attack long enough for them to be utterly without any defense.
Yeah, again, I'd go 10-8. It's more of a soft than a hard 10-8, but Poirier's also playing a bit of the long game. You can see he gets up and immediately just kind of like, how you feeling there, Khabib? Poirier is the more conditioned athlete based on all available evidence. And while he might be frustrated now, I think somewhere in his mind is the reality that he made peace with the fact that this was going to be a long fight. And he tried to condition himself appropriately. So if he's not, I don't think he's going to get desperate or deeply discouraged any time before the fourth round.
Now, by the same token, is Khabib known for getting winded in the championship rounds?
He's known more for deliberate pacing as opposed to gassing out.
Okay.
Which is a distinction I draw.
Okay, well, he just got rocked there by Dustin.
Poirier hit can crack.
Yeah, he got hit good, and Dustin is pursuing and pursuing. Khabib is backing up, but he's backing up in a circle. I would not say his footwork has been great or anything. It was just running backwards.
If it works. May not be pretty, but if it works.
Big swing from Poirier. The first time around didn't get anything. The second might have grazed him.
You can see a little bit Poirier is now overreacting to even the thought of a shot from Khabib, though, and that is troubling.
Right. Well, he's doing what the fighter in the earlier fight should have been doing, where he's now trying to pressure Khabib to keep him from shooting. He has failed and is on his back, but that was the game plan.
Well, again, there's appropriate pressure, and then there's committing too much of your weight. Poirier hurt himself on a kick there. Khabib blocked it with his elbow, and you saw Poirier stumble a little bit as his weight went back on his leg. That's something to pay attention to. If his legs aren't really under him, he's stumbling again. His leg is hurt. Oh, that's not a good thing for Poirier. His left leg is compromised. Might only be temporary, but it is hurt.
Right now, what I'm looking at is Khabib has Poirier back on his rear end. Poirier's kind of trying to shrimp and get to his feet. Khabib.
Yeah, that takedown was way too easy. His leg is hurt.
Khabib still has him around the waist, and he's got his legs trapped within his legs, and he's working.
Very standard Khabib position here. He's great about tying up your legs with his and keeping you flat.
I wish Poirier in these positions would use maybe some shoulder shrugs and elbows. If Khabib is going to spend the entire fight with his head nestled firmly in your abdomen area, then use your damn elbows.
I think he's using his elbows for other things. You don't want to lose all of your posts, especially if you're in the seated position. It's very easy to then be knocked over, and he fought hard to get here. He doesn't want to give it up.
Which leg you said was the right or left leg on Poirier?
His left.
He
might be okay. He might be okay now, but that was jacked up.
It was just being attacked by Khabib against the fence. He got a knee there right in the thigh. Poirier's messed up good in the eye. Khabib's still working against the fence.
Khabib puts damage on you. That's just the way it is.
Khabib takes him down again. Dustin's been good about bouncing to his knees, but he can't get out of this grip.
Again, this is what Khabib does that is so dangerous. It's not just that he gets you down. People get up on him all the time. You have to separate, right. And that's the problem.
Or you have to make being in this position for Khabib not really worth the effort.
And no one in this division has been able to even approximate that.
Yeah. I think Poirier was half-heartedly trying a guillotine there.
He uses a lot of front headlock positions to dissuade takedowns, and that's just not working against Khabib.
Khabib just laughed it off. Standing switch there, and Khabib took his back. Now Khabib's working his legs with knees. Poirier's got his hands on the mat to stop him from getting kneed in the face.
Yeah, I'm not sure what rule set they're under as far as what constitutes a grounded opponent, because there's currently 3 definitions that are legal to use.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So, that's always good for clarity to have multiple definitions.
Isn't it just?
What rule set are we using? I don't know. Throw a dart. All right, finally, right at the end of the round, they separated. Poirier is looking a bit worse for wear, a bit winded. He had to carry Khabib for the entire length of that round, and he took a beating while doing so. I would imagine.
Yeah, you saw that left leg of Poirier give out on him a couple of times in the clinch.
Yeah, I would imagine his lungs are. He may be expertly conditioned, but I think his lungs are on fire, among other things. I mean, the thing of it is he never had an opportunity to rest that entire 5 minutes. You know,
pretty much.
He was under high stress, high pressure the entire time, and while to the average viewer it might not look like they were doing a whole hell of a lot, try for 5 minutes to get a guy just to get off of you that's committed to laying on you. It's it can stress the heart and the lungs.
Now do it in 90-degree plus temperatures.
Yeah, and occasionally he's going to hit you in the face.
By occasionally, we mean frequently. For the record, only 10-9 for Khabib, though. He is cooking along, though. Poirier, again, he's getting roughed up. I think there's something up with his left leg after that check. Best case scenario, it's a temporary thing, but I think that bears a lot of watching. He came down awkwardly on that leg after the kick, and it gave out on him in a clinch position. I wonder if I don't know if anyone's picked up on it apart from, you or me, but yeah, Khabib is cooking along, and again, Khabib will tire a little bit, but you also have to make him not do what he wants to do, and this is what he wants to do.
Yep. I turned around just to make sure I actually hit the record button, and when I came back, we were already on the ground again. All right, we're once again looking for a guillotine here.
Oh, God, yeah. That leg is very unstable. Just watch Poirier's left leg. He's not steady on it.
So what do you think about this guillotine position from Poirier, though? It looks
I think it's reflex. He does that a lot to try and deal with takedowns.
Okay, good. Khabib's got his head out. I was starting to wonder there, was Khabib in trouble? But
nah.
And I think the ref was looking. Hang on, the ref was looking because Khabib, not that he wasn't moving per se, but he wasn't doing a whole lot of anything at first. And I think the ref was looking to see if he was out, but it's a moot point now. He's got Dustin's back again.
Yeah, again, Poirier has a good guillotine. There's a lot he's doing correct in this sequence. But, again, part of it's the arm end, part of it is Khabib's head positioning, part of it is Poirier's left leg not really being there, and part of it is just fatigue. Like, your arms burn out fast, especially when you have to squeeze a lot, and Khabib is a monster.
Now Khabib is working again that rear naked choke. And we're done. Poirier taps out to the rear naked. I'm not even sure he tapped out to the rear naked so much as he just said, I don't want no more of this guy.
If that's what you get, that's what you get. And credit to Poirier.
Why is he jumping out of the cage?
He's happy. He's celebrating.
Hey, no, this is going to end badly. He's going to hit someone.
Come on. He is not a wild man.
Khabib Wolverine Nurmagomedov. Your unified, undisputed.
Oh yeah,
that
that was a great choke. He got under the chin there. That was clean.
Mm-hmm. Looks like we have a proud papa here. And no one got punched after the fact. We have hugs.
I'm sure his father will punch him later, just in the course of being a father.
Hugs, not drugs, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's make it official here at 2 minutes and 6 seconds of round 3. Your winner and...
You just saw what I saw, I assume.
Your winner and undisputed lightweight champion, Khabib the Dry Hump King, Nurmagomedov.
Which is a wild mischaracterization. This guy, I mean, that's the genuine funniest thing about that. I've seen lay and pray guys.
Mm-hmm.
Khabib is not one of them. But the people who edit the Wikipedia entry occasionally get some interesting jokes like that in, and I appreciate it.
Yep, I'm good with this. The Dry Hump King. Yeah, submission, rear naked choke at 2 minutes, 6 seconds. And that is your UFC 242 coverage. A fun night of fights. We had some kind of wonky decisions, some good decisions, and 2 finishes. So, hey, what more can you ask for? Next week, next Saturday, like I said, your weekend watch-along sports coverage will be Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 2. If you don't know what a Josh Barnett or a Bloodsport is, these are worked-shoot wrestling matches where guys really beat the hell out of each other, but it's still a predetermined finish. Some of them look more like wrestling than others. I saw the first Josh Barnett one earlier this year at WrestleMania. WrestleMania.
Barnett and Suzuki was great.
The whole thing I thought was pretty good.
Look, what really sells it is, and you didn't see this on broadcast, William Regal sitting in the balcony and having the same expression on his face all night. Just staring intently at the action and looking mildly displeased but deeply intent. And that never changed. It was so great.
But yeah, Frank Mir was on it, Dan Severn was on it. This time around, we've got someone from the Thatcher family, Davey Boy's son. We had the former Dean Ambrose, current John Moxley, but he got the MRSA.
Dean
so
Ambrose
is there.
dead.
So we've got that. The following week is Andrew Shelby versus Jay Harris, as I said before. If you're looking for other things to listen to on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, it's Onslaught Month all month long here in the month of September. So Onslaught Volume 1 is in the can. There'll be more Onslaught this week, Onslaught Volume 2. The third is the 16th, and the fourth volume will be September 23rd. I did, in fact, make it to go see It Chapter 2. I did not conjure a hurricane to get out of it. I sat and watched the whole thing.
It did. It just hit Alabama instead of you.
North Carolina,
Bad
but
joke.
you were close.
It's a joke about the projections, okay? That's all it is.
Okay.
I know where it actually hit. Again, I'm not the ignoramus here.
Thanks. So me and all the horror people get together on Damn You Hollywood. We'll talk about It Chapter 2. It's like an action movie, only instead of explosions and fight scenes, something gross goes boogie woogie oogie and runs at you on the screen.
That's only partially accurate.
The Metal Hammer of Doom this week, we've got Killswitch Engage, Atonement, and then I know it came out a little ways ago, but, the schedule. Alexis Hana will be joining me on September 12th to discuss She-Ra Season 3. The following week, we've got The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, myself.
I don't want to spoil a movie that's literally older than I am, but I hope you don't get too attached to the Gelfling.
Again, we'll be discussing the series on Tuesday, myself and Robert. There might also be a WWE Clash of the Champions review. We'll see. I think that's up in the air right now. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, we might have to record in the afternoon on Tuesday. We've got
what time?
We'll discuss it at another time.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone's committing to doing.
Okay, stuff's in the air, up in the air. That's fine. That can wait.
We'll be reviewing Tarja in the Raw. Tarja likes it raw. On the Metal Hammer of Doom. Yes, while all the wrestling nerds are watching NXT on USA, I'll still be doing the Metal Hammer of Doom, because committed. And then finally, myself and Sean Comer will be doing an on-trial for The Dark Crystal on September 19th. That's all I'm going to tell you about, because I have a tendency to give you the whole month, and everything cancels or moves or whatever. So that's it. You only get 2 weeks full of plugs from me. Robert, plug your stuff.
Thank you for listening to this. You can find me Saturdays covering UFC events in the MMA zone of 411mania.com. You can find me Sundays hosting the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which is posted late Sunday evening or early Monday morning, depending on where you are in the world. So you can listen to that. That's myself and usually Jeff Harris, though Jeff occasionally has other things that are going on, whereas I have no life. So that's how that works. This week we'll be reviewing UFC 242, previewing the upcoming event, Cerrone versus Gagey, where I try not to lose all semblance of composure. I will probably fail. So you can listen to that. We'll have a full preview of that, plus news of the week, as is standard. Tuesday on It, Chapter 2, myself, Mark, Alexis Haina, Jason Teasley. We will tease Mark for being a giant wuss.
I saw the movie. You don't get to tease me anymore.
That's not how that works. And you know that. Over on Damn You Hollywood, there was a special TV party the week before when Mark and I got together and talked about Hannibal Season 3, which made me sad because I missed the show. And yeah, I think that's it for me as far as plugs go. Thank you all very much for tuning in, for listening, for sharing us. If you happen to have a friend, family member, loose acquaintance, someone you really don't like but you know is into the sport, please point them in our direction. I'm happy to take anybody I can get.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening to our alternative commentary for UFC 242, Khabib versus Poirier. Be well, be safe, and behave.